Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, the 8th of September. I'm Erin Viner, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. We open with the unexpected sandstorm that is covering the country in a sepia yellow fog. The Environmental Protection Agency is warning that the conditions pose a real danger to Israelis' health and is requesting that everyone remain indoors, but particularly anyone at risk, including those with respiratory issues, the elderly, young, women, or pregnant children. Hilly areas are dealing with the heaviest concentrations of the sand particles, including Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, and the southern West Bank. Visibility has been very low as the skies darkened and a layer of the brownish-yellow dust is coating everything outdoors. Domestic flights were disrupted, including the cancellation of all flights from Tel Aviv to Eilat by the Israel Air and Arkia carriers. The unusual weather is caused by a dense wave of sand that blew in overnight from Iraq and Syria, where it has persisted over the past week. Meteorologists say that the sandstorm may be clogging our skies until tomorrow morning and will be followed by another heat wave that is expected to remain with us until the end of the week. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is determined to overcome the last remaining obstacle to enacting the natural gas deal after winning Knesset approval for the plan with a vote of 59 to 51. Despite that victory, the proposal is unable to advance because the coalition couldn't get a majority on the critical vote to transfer Economy Minister Aryeh Deri's authority on the matter to the full cabinet. That became necessary when Deri refused to sign off on the deal due to opposition from former antitrust commissioner David Gilot. The minister maintains that he would rather wait for approval from the next commissioner after one is appointed, which could take as long as a year. Netanyahu is leading the drive for the gas plan to be implemented and has expressed his confidence that the antitrust problem can be resolved. He vowed to clear away any remaining barriers, saying that when he wants something, he gets it, and that he wants this to lower the cost of living for the citizens of Israel, going on to say, "We will get the energy security that we need, step by step and obstacle by obstacle." After returning from summer recess today, the U.S. Congress will immediately face several days of fierce debate over the nuclear deal with Iran. Emotions are running high over the issue, with a majority set to vote against the agreement, as U.S. President Barack Obama remains poised to veto their efforts to stop it.
Iran deal, we know what's going to happen in the end. The president is going to get his deal, but Melissa, there's going to be some wild pyrotechnics between now and then.
Do you think he will actually have to veto something?
You know, I would say that it's certainly possible that he's going to have to, because getting up to the point where you can actually hold that legislation back in the Senate's the best place to try to do it. It's going to be awfully close. We'll know in the next few days.
Is Senator Cardin, as we were just mentioning, a Democrat, but a very, very high-ranking Democrat, came out against it. What kind of impact does that have?
That's right. You know, it's probably not an awful lot, any more than Chuck Schumer's opposition to it in New York and other important Democrats. These decisions are really being made based on their personal, political, and philosophical calculations, right? Every senator has to decide where he or she wants to come down on it. And frankly, I don't think they're really swaying each other very much at this point.
Former Secretary of State Colin Powell expressed his opinion on the Iran deal on Meet the Press. Let's take a look at that.
Well, I've studied very carefully the outline of the deal and what's in that deal. And I've also carefully looked at the opposition to the deal. And my judgment after balancing those two sets of information is that it's a pretty good deal. Now, will they comply with it? Will they actually do all of this? Well, they get nothing until they show compliance, and that's the important part of the arrangement.
I want to address something that's very clear to you, I know, in that there are a lot of constituents of yours. There are a lot of Jews who are going to say, you sold out Israel. And what are you going to say to them?
You know, I'm the first Jewish woman to represent Florida in Congress. I'm a Jewish mother. And I wrote an op-ed today that's in the Miami Herald, one of my hometown papers, that talks about my Jewish heart and how important this was to me, that as a Jewish mother, that we have a concept of l'dor v'dor, from generation to generation. There's nothing more important to me as a Jew to ensure that Israel's existence is there throughout our generations. And I am confident that the process I've gone through to reach this decision is one that will ensure that Israel will be there forever. It is the homeland of my people. I'm an American citizen, and I believe fervently in protecting America's national security interests. And there is no way that we would be able to ensure that better than approving this deal and ensuring that Iran is not ever able to get access to nuclear weapons, and that we can shift our focus with the rest of the world on going after their terrorist ambitions. And most importantly, I had the privilege of talking with President Obama last night, who assured me that as we move forward and discuss with Israel the enhanced security package that will absolutely be essential for us to provide to Israel, as well as ensure that we tighten our ability to enforce this deal, that I'll be part of a group of members of Congress that will be working with him and his administration on that. That's critical for me.
Senior officials in Ramallah say that Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is planning to declare all peace agreements with Israel null and void due to the failure of any of the deals to result in the establishment of a Palestinian state. Abbas is expected to make that announcement during his upcoming speech at the United Nations General Assembly later this month. There is widespread belief that Abbas wants to renounce the landmark Oslo Accords as well as the 1994 Paris Protocol on Economic Relations. An 81-year-old man was killed today in a head-on collision after driving on the wrong side of the coastal highway. The victim smashed his car into a police vehicle, injuring a police officer and a municipal security officer who were evacuated in moderate condition to Hillel Yaffe Medical Center in Hadera. The police were trying to intercept the car after calls were received by emergency services, alerting them that it was headed against the traffic. The victim's family reports that he has been missing since last night. 2 new immigrants were found dead inside of their Jerusalem apartment this morning. Magen David Adom paramedics were called to the scene after neighbors noticed the strong smell of gas and said that the couple failed to pick up their morning groceries. Fire and rescue crews discovered the bodies after breaking into the home, where they found a gas leak. Other residents were evacuated from the building, and the victim's apartment was swiftly aired out of concern of a potential explosion. The exact circumstances of the deaths are unclear at this time. Turning now to the migrant crisis in Europe and the latest clashes between police in Hungary and masses of refugees seeking to make their way to Western Europe. Security forces used pepper spray in a crowd trying to break through a cordon on the border with Serbia after only small numbers were allowed to pass through yesterday. The police were trying to escort the migrants to the transit camp at Roška yesterday when the flow of people, including small children, instead tried to break through and walk against traffic on a road leading to Budapest. Tensions have been running high in the area, where thousands of migrants are hoping to board trains and buses toward Austria and Germany, or even set off on foot. Authorities in Austria have been offering assistance to the 7,000 migrants who managed to reach Vienna's Westbahnhof train station from Hungary over the past 24 hours. Volunteers are helping to distribute food, water, and information to the migrants at the terminal, as many continue to catch trains to Germany throughout the day. Over 20,000 refugees were recorded entering Germany from Hungary this past weekend, following more than 100,000 in a single month during August. Berlin is now calling on its partners in the European Union taking greater numbers on their own. As a matter of urgency, France announced that it will take up to 1,000 migrants currently in Germany. Thousands of people across Australia calling on their government to do more flocked to rallies in 6 cities in support of the refugees, while holding candlelight vigils in honor of the 3-year-old Syrian Kurdish boy Aylan Kurdi found washed up on a Turkish beach last week. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott is coming under pressure to take in more asylum seekers after announcing that Canberra is only willing to increase its annual intake quota of 13,750 Syrians fleeing the civil war in their homeland. Meanwhile, Europe's Migration Commissioner Dimitris Avramopoulos says that he is counting on EU member states to support his proposals to tackle the mass influx in what has become the worst refugee crisis to engulf Europe since the Second World War. Jean-Claude Juncker says that he is prepared to defy national leaders over the matter with his bid to force them to take in quotas of migrants up to 4 times higher than their current levels.
No member state in the European Union can address this issue alone. We can only overcome this crisis if we act as a true union, if we act with responsibility and solidarity.
Egyptian billionaire Najib Sawiris is furious at President Barack Obama and the West for failing to adequately deal with the refugee problem and is ready to contribute his own money. He announced his plan to purchase a Greek or Italian island to shelter those fleeing war in the Middle East.
Today, 2 DHLs went out to the Prime Minister of Italy and the Prime Minister of Greece, and a copy of these letters went to their embassies today. And all what I'm asking is, find me an island, I'll make the financial payment for it, I'll pay for it. All what you need to do is to allow me to direct 50 or 100,000 refugees to this island. The rest is mine, I'll do the rest. Enough is enough. 2 pictures, the picture of the young child thrown to the beaches, and also the pictures from Hungary, how these people are being treated in the end, and so like cattle, you know, and what is their crime? Now all the politicians in the West, and Mr. Obama specifically, he says, no, I mean, we had a very bad experience in Iraq, so we will not repeat this again. Yes, but you messed it in Iraq. Now you are telling us you're not going to clean the mess? So to give it a good conscience, I'm sending 300 trainers to train the Iraqis. It's not an Iraqi problem only now.
British Prime Minister David Cameron is pledging to take in 20,000 migrants, but stressed that the United Kingdom will only absorb refugees from camps in Turkey or Jordan. He then went on to inform his parliament that a British drone killed 2 of the country's citizens who had joined the Islamic State in Syria.
So, Mr. Speaker, we are proposing that Britain should resettle up to 20,000 Syrian refugees over the rest of this Parliament. In doing so, we'll continue to show the world that this country is a country of extraordinary compassion, always standing up for our values and helping those in need. As we do so, we'll recognise that children have been particularly badly affected by the crisis in Syria. Because we're not part of the EU's borderless Schengen Agreement or its relocation initiative, Britain is able to decide its own approach. So we will continue with our approach of taking refugees from the camps and from elsewhere in Turkey, Jordan and Lebanon. In recent weeks, it's been reported that 2 ISIL fighters of British nationality who had been plotting attacks against the UK and other countries have been killed in airstrikes. Both Junaid Hussain and Rayad Khan were British nationals based in Syria who were involved in actively recruiting ISIL sympathisers and seeking to orchestrate specific and barbaric attacks against the West, including directing a number of planned terrorist attacks right here in Britain, such as plots to attack high-profile public commemorations, including those taking place this summer. Today, I can inform the House that in an act of self-defence and after meticulous planning, Rayad Khan was killed in a precision airstrike carried out on the 21st of August by an RAF remotely piloted aircraft while he was travelling in a vehicle in the area of Raqqa in Syria. In addition to Rayad Khan, who was the target of the strike, 2 ISIL associates were also killed, one of whom, Ruhul Amin, has been identified as a UK national.
Prime Minister Netanyahu will be travelling to London for a meeting with British Prime Minister Cameron tomorrow. Journalist and author Melanie Phillips says that the 2 leaders are at odds regarding Iran.
I don't think Mr. Cameron knows what his view is, quite frankly, towards the Middle East. In terms of Israel, specifically Israel, he has certainly softened his hitherto pro-Palestinian rhetoric. Soon after he became Prime Minister, he referred to Gaza as a prison. In other words, he was repeating the boilerplate prejudice that passes for political debate in Britain about the Middle East. Since the Gaza war, and particularly since the eruption of overtly anti-Jewish hostility on the streets of London and elsewhere in Britain, Mr. Cameron has suddenly woken up. And I think it's not just that. He was very horrified by the overt anti-Jewish prejudice. Now, the problem is that because of the rise of Islamic State, and because Iran is now in alliance with America against Islamic State, Mr. Cameron believes that therefore Iran is, tactically speaking, Britain's ally at present. This omits the obvious fact that, well, obvious to me, but not obvious to the British establishment, that in the Middle East, my enemy's enemy is sometimes still my enemy. It is not necessarily my friend. The British don't understand that. They think my enemy's enemy is my friend, and therefore they can make a tactical alliance. The British foreign policy establishment is simply incapable of understanding that in the Middle East, the principal actors operate on premises, on assumptions which are quite foreign to the British mind.
The Arab World Institute of Paris is set to open an exhibition today, including artifacts found in the sunken city of Thanas Heraklion off the coast of Egypt in 2002. The objects include statues of a pharaoh, king, and queen dating back to the Ptolemaic kingdom 305 years before the Common Era. The artifacts were discovered by French underwater archaeologist Frank Godiot and are believed to carry deep religious significance as well as a great deal of mystery, having once belonged to a large monolithic chapel for use in celebrations. The ancient port of Thanas Heraklion was the obligatory point of entry into Egypt for all ships coming from the Greek world. It was submerged in the Mediterranean Sea during the 8th century of the Common Era when the earth collapsed after a series of earthquakes and powerful tides. Last night was the Venice Film Festival premiere of director Amos Gitai's production of Robbing the Last Day that combines dramatized depictions of real events and archival footage examining how Yigal Amir was able to assassinate Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin in 1995, as well as the subsequent investigation into the murder. Gitai and the cast walked the red carpet at the festival, where his film is among 20 others competing for the Golden Lion Award that will be announced on Saturday. At a later press conference, the Israeli director began by calling for a moment's silence in memory of Riham Dawabsha, who succumbed yesterday to injuries caused in an arson attack by suspected right-wing extremists against her home in Duma last July that also burned her husband and baby to death.
I would like to have a personal request. I would like you all to raise up and stand in a moment of silence in memory of the mother of the Duma village who passed away a few hours ago this night, the last victim of hatred of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and in memory of all the conflict of this, the victims of this conflict. Please raise up.
No, they had a limited mandate, which is to just investigate the operational failures. But in a way, the film itself is the real investigation committee. The film is dealing with calls to an incitement to take out a government which was elected democratically by Rabin, and different forces, different vectors try to destabilize it. Since Rabin was determined to move forward, it ended by killing him. No, I thought since I chose that Rabin himself is not represented in the film, it's like the big hole, the black hole of the film. Because I think that people like Rabin or Kennedy or any big leader, they have too much of an aura in our memory. So the film is constructed around this black hole. And then these moments are represented by documents. We had a very big part of our staff working on the research of video documents, and also the entire film is factual, so we had a lot of elements which were contributing to the writing of the screenplay.
And here now is some good news for consumers as we approach the new year. Electricity rates for home usage will fall by 6.2% this Sunday on Erev Rosh Hashanah. This is the second such price decrease this year, following a 10% reduction in February. The main reason behind the rate cut was the 17% fall in world coal prices in recent months, at a time when the Israel Electric Corporation has stepped up its use of the fuel. Stock talk now, and the shekel today put in a mixed performance against all major foreign currencies, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange were up across the board. Here's a look at the afternoon numbers. Turning to the forecast, and as mentioned earlier, the heat wave is expected to soar to even higher temperatures tomorrow, with hot, dry, Sharav desert heat wave conditions prevailing in most regions. Here's the forecast at home and abroad over the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow when I'll be back to bring you the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a great evening and shalom from Jerusalem.